Hello and welcome to the final Friday rugby preview, and in the show I'm joined today by Dale Clancy as we look ahead to a very busy weekend of rugby, the Selkirk Sevens on Saturday and the big game over in Glasgow on Sunday involving the South in the inter-district final against Caledonia Reds. So Dale, let's jump straight in. We now know which team has won the Kings of the Sevens this season, and it's congratulations to Melrose, who won at Jedburgh last weekend.
Yeah, you know, Melrose, in terms of the way that they've played Sevens this season, have been really consistent. You know, it's been such a competitive Kings of the Sevens tournament as well, because, you know, they're the first team to actually win 2 tournaments so far this season. So, you know, that's a huge thing for them. But it just shows the competitive nature of the Kings of the Sevens this year. And it was a great final as well. You know, I wasn't there at Jedforest to watch the tournament, but, you know, seeing the highlights back, it was competitive, it was close, it was tight, and it was probably just what you expected from a Jedforest tournament. And how many years gone by have we seen Jedforest, Melrose in the final? And with deciding who's going to be Kings of the Sevens, albeit on this occasion that Jedforest weren't really in the running, you know, but it's good, and it keeps the interest in the tournament. Certainly going into the Selkirk tournament this weekend as well, because yes, Kings of the Sevens is done, but you know, there's a lot of teams still on that table that want to pick up a victory. So
we didn't quite get our 9 different teams winning 9 different tournaments, but we went far away though, were we? Because obviously, as you mentioned, Jedforest in the final, it went down basically to the last score. It was 19 each, and then Donald Crawford went in, kicked ahead and got the better of one of the young twins.
Yeah, I think it was almost written in the stars for me. I thought Jedforest would pick up the victory, especially I did see the squad come out and seen Rory Marshall was there, and you know, he's just he's a really consistent player as well. Perhaps not played as much rugby in the Sevens so far this season, but you know, obviously getting him back in the fold, they've brought that consistency to their own tournament. You know, they're a hungry team, especially when they're at Riverside, but just falling short. And I think that's probably because, you know, Melrose do have that confidence. They've got a bit of a spring in their step when it comes to Sevens so far this season. You know, with picking up a trophy. They've obviously been in, you know, they've been in finals, they've been runners up, they've been in semi-finals so far this season. So, you know, on the balance of stuff, they've been the most consistent team. But, you know, again, you're rolling to Selkirk and anybody can win that tournament again. And you know, you talk about last week you thought Jedforest perhaps the favourites going into that tournament at home, want to put on a show and make amends for a bit of a poor start in the Kings of the Sevens tournament. You can say the same against Selkirk this week. Perhaps not as strong a field in terms of teams at that tournament, I think, due to the nature of where it is now, just due to the 1 year, obviously. But you know, you wouldn't bet against the likes of Selkirk or Jed getting their name on a winner's trophy so far this season.
So we could get 9 out of 10 at least, anyway. But let's not discount Inbrackis and Gala and Kelso, who have all played good rugby this season. And I think from Inbrackis' point of view, they'll certainly be thrilled if they can lift the Macari Cup on Saturday, which I don't think they've done before. I think it's always gone to Watsonians, and that goes to the club outside the borders that finishes the highest in the table.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I did speak about the Jedforest tournament the week before and noticed that game between Inbrackis and Peebles, and, you know, Peebles perhaps just never really made a fist of it at all, and Inbrackis again just showing a little bit their class. I even looked at the squad, and Lewis Wells wasn't in it because he was playing Super Series, and you thought, well, that's a big player for them to lose. But they just have that appetite for Sevens now as well, which Watsonians of the past used to have, which, you know, Heriots before them and Boroughmuir before them had. So, you know, it's good to have a couple of competitive Edinburgh teams, and I've said it once, I've said it twice, 1,000 times. I'm boring myself now, but, you know, to the point where the Kings of the Sevens doesn't work without the buy-in of these quality Edinburgh teams, you know, and we can talk about it being a level playing field, like Melrose, obviously being consistent, teams still in the hunt, like Gala and, you know, Jedforest are a quality Sevens team as well, but, you know, it doesn't work if you've just got them. You know, if you've only got 3 or 4 quality teams, you need the additional teams to come down and buy into it, and they do buy into it. That's not, they don't just turn up and, you know, make up the numbers. They want to go and win tournaments, and for years, you know, the Edinburgh teams have perhaps, you know, there's been periods of time where they've won a lot of tournaments, and it's taken the likes of Melrose and, you know, Hoyk at their own tournament and Jed at their own to really wrestle it back off them. So, you know, Edinburgh Accies, out of the 2, most consistent in terms of the team sheets as well, the performances, they've been most consistent. But Watsonians have been surprising. They've, you know, for their squad and what they've had in terms of a really poor 15 season, Sevens has been, you know, they've been probably dark horses in most of the Kings of the Sevens tournaments.
Selkirk Sevens draw then. We've got Gala against Musselburgh. It's a knockout competition. Jed against Langham, Selkirk against Linlithgow, Peebles against Watsonians. That's the top half of the draw. And then the bottom half, it's Melrose against the President Seven, the famous side that always appear. Hoyk against the Hearts and Balls, who can be an interest. I mean, they won the People's Sevens, of course. Edinburgh Accies against Berwick, and Kelso against Aberdeen University.
Interesting draw, really. A lot you could probably take for that. You've got to say the home side do have a very favourable first round tie, but that's good for them. It gives them hopefully a bit of a spring in their step to go through the tournament. So it'll be another good weekend, and I'd love to see another team get their name on the trophy. So it'd be it just keeps that intrigue when you look at the final standings and you look back and you think that was a really, really good quality competitive Kings of the Sevens season, because I do think, and my honest opinion is, the rugby has been pretty quality. I think it's been really good. Ties have been entertaining, the ones that I've seen as well. There's been some one-sided games, but there's always going to be, you get that in IRB, World Rugby level. So, there's always going to be that gap and gulf in quality. But overall, I think this has probably been one of the most competitive and exciting Kings of the Sevens tournaments that I can remember.
Well, by the way, no radio commentary on Saturday, but full coverage on Borders Rugby TV throughout the week, including a report on the final and on ITV Border as well. So we're certainly looking forward to going to the Selkirk Sevens at Philip Hoch. Pitch looking great as well, and 3 team presentations, the Selkirk Sevens, the Kings of the Sevens, and also the Macquarie Cup as well. So plenty to enjoy. Always a good tournament down at Philip Hoch. And Jack Hamilton has been one of the team's star players this season for Selkirk. He's just announced that he will actually be leaving, going back to Boroughmuir, but he'll be hoping that Selkirk pick up their first win of the Kings of the Sevens, and we hear from him now.
Yeah, really looking forward to Selkirk Sevens this weekend. We were a bit disappointed last weekend at Jed after a really good start against them in the quarter-final, and then a few decisions didn't really go our way, and the scoreline obviously speaks for itself, but at the end of the day, that's Sevens, isn't it? So training this week's definitely going to have much more a buzz with it being our home Sevens, and the last opportunity for us to win some silverware and sort of do something Kings of Sevens, because we've got to the semis and stuff. We've never got to progress to that final this year. So last couple of weeks we spoke about having belief in ourselves, and I think after the last couple of tournaments we've definitely shown that we can take on the much more experienced teams, but it's just doing it for the full 14 minutes that we need to try and achieve. We've got a really, really young squad this year, which is great, because it's going to be a great experience for the lads, and it's invaluable for them in the future. And going into next season, it's definitely going to improve their skills and exposing them to that level. So it's really good. Unfortunately, I won't be playing rugby down at Selkirk next year, where just with work commitments changing, making it much more difficult for me to travel down from Edinburgh. But I've absolutely loved the 3 years that I've played down Selkirk. It's a fantastic club, and I've felt really welcome since I've came here. And I've made some really good mates and memories. I've also loved going back to a club that my granddad, Bill Hamilton, was part of for so long. It's been, great going down there and hearing stories and stuff. Everyone coming up to me and telling me stories about him and stuff. It's been great. We were gutted this year to miss out on top 4, but it was pretty special winning the Borders League final this season. It wouldn't be too bad either to sign off on Saturday with a home Sevens win, but that's it would be great if that could happen.
Good to hear from Jack Hamilton. First time we've spoken to him, in fact, on the programme. A very, very good scrum half, and we wish him well at Megatland. I also spoke with Ross Goodfellow, the Jed coach, and he's very, very confident that he can win this tournament. Well, not him personally, obviously. Jedforest, which will be obviously their first win of the season, as we said, if they manage it. But you can never rule out the home team or an Edinburgh team, or of course, another border side from Kelso looking pretty good as well. They could get up again, and of course the K7's winners, Melrose.
Yeah, I think, it's difficult. Well, actually, it's not difficult. It's quite easy to argue the case for pretty much any of the teams. You could probably look down the draw, and there's at least one tie that you could probably say, yeah, they could win it if they get the bounce of the ball. And, you even have the conversations, and it's an easy example for me, but you look at it when I was speaking to a few people's guys last weekend, I was like, that first tie is hard, but if you get through that, there's a real chance. Like, you could go far if you can put in the best performances that you have been. You go out in the first round, and then it's another team that take that forward. But they're having the same conversations. I do think Ross Goodfellow has got a real good case to take forward for the fact that they feel that they can lift the trophy. They've got into a final. They've started to get that little bit of confidence again.
And Rory Marshall, he picked out. He said, Marshall, you could see the difference, couldn't you?
Yeah, he's so experienced, but it's not just his experience; it's his engine. I think when you look at really good sevens players, they can just keep going, like Richard Mill and players like that. Like, you think about Struan Hutchison as well, and now one of the standout. I'm a Hutchison convert now, because he's been one of the standout players for Melrose throughout the whole of the Kings tournaments. Just they keep going, they don't drop their level, and you find that is the same with Marshall. You never really see him drop off. It's true to be said for a lot of the Jed players, but they've perhaps had that little transition period where they've had to bring some of the rawer players into the squad, try and integrate them with the more experienced ones, even bringing like Daz Gillespie back into it as well. And he was a standout player at Earlston as well, looked really, really good, in good shape. So sometimes you have to go through those little bits of difficult tournaments, difficult times, and then at the end of it you might be rewarded with a tournament success. But it's the same to be said about Selkirk. There's an appetite there to win your home tournament. Your performance levels go up a notch. And then you think about every other team, like Kelso have got that great culture now. Gala will be wanting to build on, almost being in the hunt for Kings of the Sevens as well, wanting to try and, get up another tournament victory. You can argue about loads of teams. There's certainly a whole clutch of potential victors, and I think that's, in a summary, going back to my previous point, that's what makes the Kings so exciting this season, is because they're really, really hard to predict. I've said pretty much every tournament since Melrose, Jed will win, and I've been wrong every single time. So I'm not breaking for tradition. I'm just going to say Jed will win, because then I'm consistent with my analysis.
Okay, well, on to the South then, in the Inter-District Championship. We're recording this at Netherdale at the final South Players session, and we'll be hearing from Matty Douglas, the head coach, later on in the show. A few changes expected, though, due to pre-arranged stag nights, etc. And you mentioned Struan Hutchison there. Of course, Struan's done the South. He's also, been leading the Melrose team as well. So, I mean, fair play to him. He's actually been involved. I haven't seen the teams yet, because obviously this is Wednesday when we're recording this, but it'll be interesting to see if he's leading Melrose and lifting the Kings of the Sevens trophy at Philiphaugh on the Saturday, and will he be playing for the South on the Sunday or on the bench?
Yeah, I think I'm just so wrapped up in my own wee world, and I've even thought of that. But that will be. I think it's part and parcel of what's happened with the coronation. Obviously, having to move Selkirk Sevens, there is going to be that comes into it. So, Melrose probably one of the teams that might be most affected, because even if you look at the makeup of like the Hoyk team so far, they've not really changed. They've kind of rewarded the guys who have played throughout the Sevens to keep going, which I think's great. The other guys have had success in 15s. They never went to bring all their big hitters back in. So Melrose, they've got the likes of Struan Hutchison, Donald Crawford in there as well. Bruce Colvin's been playing Sevens. Do they go for a big double weekend? I think that would be unlikely. I think there's going to be a few missing characters at Selkirk Sevens, unfortunately, which again just adds intrigue to the tournament itself. But yeah, just a bit about Struan Hutchison. I think that we were selecting our teams a while back, and probably again I've said neglected because of the level that he was playing on. But I spoke to an unnamed individual after the South game before, and his first parting shot was, how class is Struan Hutchison. And I think when you see him at that level against quality opposition and surrounded by quality players, he still stands out. So even when he's standing out in Nat 1, you probably go, yeah, it's Nat 1. But then when you see him surrounded by the quality that was on the pitch here, last Tuesday, he's a quality operator.
Certainly is. Now, Caledonia Reds are the opposition. They beat Glasgow and the West to make the final score 58 points to 25 in Caledonia's favour. Much said about the red card, obviously, which helped the Caledonia team in terms of being a player up for a certain amount of time, but also the fact that the Cali side wasn't exactly packed with a huge amount of Premier players. So fair play to them. Obviously, as we've known from the past, the fact that the South have played Caledonia Reds on a couple of occasions back in 2016, 2017, and Caledonia Reds certainly have an appetite for inter-district rugby, something which possibly Glasgow and Edinburgh don't as yet. What would you say about that?
Well, it's easy to see why they don't. They've got two like Edinburgh and Glasgow have got professional teams in their ranks, and then you've got an abundance of semi-pro teams in Edinburgh. Glasgow were a bit miffed that they never got a semi-pro team, so you wonder if the appetite in Glasgow will increase slightly. But you look at the Borders were, we had a professional team, then it's taken away, but still the appetite is there for getting behind something that is our identity in the Borders, in the south of Scotland. The south is that, and it's the same up north. They were scunner at the fact that they never got a professional team, and even when ours folded, they felt that it should have went up there and they should have got offered the opportunity. And there's probably that axe to grind, which probably helped, their scoreline against Glasgow, because, as you say, aren't littered with Premiership talent, but the incentive is there to really put a marker down and try and grow the game in Cali, because, there's been a diminished kind of level of representation and quality from Cali in recent years. That can't be argued because of the plummet of like Aberdeen, Grammar, Highland doing well. Yep, they're coming up through the leagues as well, but nobody's really, surging towards the top and really putting a marker down. It is quite dominated by below Cali, the west coast. Obviously not Edinburgh as much as well, but certainly in the south of Scotland. So, I think it does stem back to what rugby you've got on your doorstep to be interested in. And Edinburgh and Glasgow are blessed to have professional teams, and great, because that's our Scottish professional teams as well. But after that, it's really clubs in both our regions, because even if you think about it, the Southern Knights, I don't think the Southern Knights has had that. Actually, I don't think, right? The Southern Knights has not had the appetite from the support of the south of Scotland that we perhaps. I think perhaps we should have, but it's maybe not been, advertised and promoted in the right way from various levels. So that's why we pin our hat on the south of Scotland. So really, Borders and Cali, we've got our inter-district teams, and we're proud of them. And then after that, we've got clubs, and really everything else is probably managed within the clubs anyway.
5 out of 5 wins for the South since the 2009 comeback. But before that, in 2001, they won all 4 games in the final inter-district championship. So it's 9 out of 9 if you include that. And of course, in 2000, we know the South lost half of their 4 games. Information hard to track down from 23 years ago, but we're still trying. But if they win on Sunday, it's definitely 10 in a row. Could be more.
Yeah, I think it's it does. I was impressed, actually. I think the point I'm trying to eventually get to was I was impressed by the kind of backing that the south of Scotland had on Tuesday past. When it looked down, even looking at the footage back, it's difficult in the commentary position because you're focused on the game. You watch the game and it was brilliant. The quality was really good, and I thought the South performance was really professional. But then watching your footage back, and it's actually the footage from in front of the stand, and there was as many people in front of the stand as there was in the stand, and the 1,500 people to be at Netherdale to watch that is remarkable, because you're kind of worried about what was going to happen at the tail end of a season. Is it going to really...
Tuesday night as well.
Yeah, Tuesday night. Is it going to get the back in? All of a sudden, social media as well on Twitter completely flooded with people talking about inter-district rugby, and obviously all the talk about, will they play the Southern Knights? No, they won't. But there's always that chat, but it generates interest, and that's what it's about. It's a sport. You want people to get behind it. You want the interest to be there. You want those conversations, as tedious as they might be, you want them to be happening. So it was brilliant, and on Tuesday past. So I hope that it's represented in Glasgow. They've maybe missed a trick there by either holding the final in either side, but we'll see when it comes to Sunday.
Colin Sangster is the head coach. Kevin Wyness, who we know as well, who always is a supporter of what we do, and we'll be obviously talking to them before the match on Sunday 3:00. And they're certainly taking it seriously. Yeah.
Sangster, obviously I know that the son Donald Sangster and Andrew Sangster from the time at Peebles, and when they went back home, they're just rugby daft, and they were always playing up in Caledonia and playing wherever their dad was, really. So they've got a real appetite, and he's a big driving force behind the inter-district up in that area. So it's going to be a different game to what we've seen against Edinburgh. You felt when they came out, when I was watching the warm-ups, there was just a different level of application. But when you start looking at the footage and a little bit of the coverage from the Cali game, I think they mirror each other quite well. I think there was probably that disparity between the Cali's preparations and Glasgow's preparations. Probably not helped by Mar, obviously, with their preparations for the final and things like that, but we were in the same situation with Hoyk. There's just a different appetite. So I feel when the South and Cali come together, I think it's going to be really competitive. I think it's going to be tight, to be honest. I think that the South have better quality personnel, but it depends on the preparation. When you bring these inter-district teams together, it depends how you've merged that team as quick as possible, getting your set piece going. Like say Edinburgh, they really struggled because they just could not deal with the scrum and the line out, and it'll just allow the South just to squeeze them, get them up the park, force them into more mistakes and just capitalise off them. And you feel that they're probably not going to be afforded that opportunity against Cali because they should be pretty nailed on with their set piece. So it's going to be an interesting fixture. It'll be different to what we'd seen before. But yeah, it'll be competitive, and hopefully we can make it 10 out of 10.
And Cali, of course, 6 years of hurt waiting for this, because remember, they were 19-0 up at Bridge Hoch, and back came the South to actually win that. And as we know, the South never start well, so you'd imagine they'll be straight out of the blocks in the first 20 minutes trying to capitalise on a bit of history there, because all of the 5 games South have gone behind, come back to win.
I think you were pointing out that in commentary beside me. You were obviously writing down and reminding me that they've been behind in all those games and then come back to win. But rugby's an 80-minute game. I just think that Cali will have that axe to grind just because they are underdogs. You mentioned the quality opposition. That makes you an underdog if you notice that. If you're looking at the team sheet and you're noticing that there may be not a lot of Premiership players in that team and what have you, they then go into the game as underdogs, and sometimes that's the best for teams because it raises that level of performance. But
nothing to lose.
Neither team do though. Neither they've got nothing to lose because it's been well backed in their regions. They've been the flag bearers for inter-district rugby for a while now, before it's been backed by the clubs, and obviously Scottish Rugby have got into it as well to try and push it and get it back into the rugby calendar. So they do have nothing to lose, everything to gain though, because you'll be wanting to win that first one, and once you win the first one, you want to just keep going. So I think it's just going to be, you played all your rugby. We've had the cup finals, we've had Hoyt win in the last minute, we've had all that. This is just another kind of addition to the rugby calendar. It's been a long season, but it's going to be a great finish.
Well, when we spoke to Bob McKillop, the coach of the Edinburgh side, he said, well, we're not here just to play defensive rugby, we're going to throw the ball about because that's what we do, and the South like to do that as well, and I know Caledonia do. So are we going to get a high scoring game like Cali had against Glasgow?
I think it'll be high. There'll be tries in it. There definitely will be tries in it. It won't be an arm wrestle because hopefully nice bright weather, it allows both teams to chuck the ball about. But we did see that from Edinburgh when they played down here, because their opening try, it was that interlinking play. It was a brilliant try from the second row. It was built from just playing offloading rugby, just keeping the ball alive. After that though, they just didn't have that cohesion. Too many mistakes, the South too polished, too many connections in that team. Cali, they'll like to chuck the ball, but I just think it'll be a completely different game because they'll both be well drilled. So defensively, the South were really, really strong against Edinburgh. Yes, they conceded points, but they were strong. You look at the game and they're mirror images. Cali were defensively strong against Glasgow as well. Something's got to give. There'll be tries in it. It maybe be a high 20s, early 30s score to each side. So there'll be points in it anyway.
Well, let's hear from Matty Douglas, head coach of the South. Well, Matty, 1 game to go this season. You haven't tasted defeat yet.
Look, it's something I didn't really think about. I think, in terms of what we're involved with at the minute, it's bigger than kind of individuals and bigger than clubs. We have to come together collectively, and the pressure's on us this week to perform. Obviously, we were really happy last Tuesday night. I thought we performed maybe a little under where we thought we might be, but look, we still put 50 points on it, and that's the pleasing thing for us. And look, we know how good a side this Cali team is after analysing their game, but yeah, look, it would be a pleasing finish to the season if we can win the Inter-District on Sunday.
No more sessions after this one?
Nah, finally a bit break, but look, a lot of these boys have been going 11 months, and it'll be a welcome break by a lot of players, but I think we've just had a chat at the end. Everybody's enjoyed it. For me, it's been a great experience being involved in this, and the rest of the coaches, and credit to the players. They're the ones that have driven this, and it's always tough in May when you're still sevens, club rugby, but look, even tonight we've got 30 odd players there, and it's been an absolute pleasure to be involved in, and hopefully we can finish on a high on Sunday.
Looking from the sidelines, I could see that everyone, from the first session to this one, has gelled really, really quickly, and they're now all great mates.
Yeah, they are, and I think that it's always a good thing about Borders rugby. You know your opposite man, even if you're not playing against them in the league. But when you come into this, when you get, as I say, the best players in the region together, it's just different. It's got a different feel, and it's a great buzz. And as you say, the players have gelled very well, quickly. We've only had at the end of the day 3 or 4 sessions, and look, when you watch that team run at the end, you would think we've been together for 2 months. So that's the pleasing thing as coaches, how quickly they've gelled. But yourself, Borders players have just got that little edge on bits and pieces like that. So look, again, just really happy with what the boys have put in.
Now, you've had a look at Caledonia, who beat Glasgow and the West by 58 points to 25. There was a red card, of course, which will have had a bit of an impact on the game. But clearly, the two sides that have made the final are the two sides that really have bought into the inter-district. Not saying that Glasgow and Edinburgh haven't, but certainly out of the 4, these two have a history of trying to get the inter-district back.
Yeah, they do. And look, I was never involved with the games back in 2017, but when Cali was a popular fixture, and they had a warm-up game against the Army, and they've had a kind of similar number of sessions to us. So they've took it very seriously, and yeah, look, they performed pretty well last weekend up in Highland. But for us, it's about trying to pick little things in there that we can attack and we can go at. We've analysed it, pretty thorough, especially having Chegg involved. He loves the analysis side of it. So look, we'll be ready for that. But it's the two best teams, that we've both won a game. So I think Cali they'll look to move the ball. They'll love an offload. They love playing this big expansive game. So look, we need to adapt to that and then find our strengths and really take the game to them.
A lot of National 1 players in the side up there with Caledonia. There's also like Liam Brims, ex-Falkirk, and DJ Innes from Curry as well. So they've got a few Premiership boys in there. So on paper, you would think, well, this is fairly comfortable for the South. But it doesn't work like that, does it?
No, it never does. And I think that's probably what we've installed into them, is that complacency kind of set in. And I think a lot of coaches talk about that at club rugby, and I especially do that. Going week after week, you kind of just think you have to turn up and win. And look, I said it for the word go. We're in this to win it. It's great to have it back, but we set a stall out that we want to win it, and we'll be going on Sunday with that sort of attitude. And look, people might say we're taking it too seriously, but for me, it's the South and the Borders. It's great to have it back, and we want to kind of build our own. Even the boys are talking about cementing it back, and a lot of these boys will be back in at the end of the year. So we need to finish on a high now, and look, Cali will be tough, but I feel if we get a platform to play off our forward pack and we just fix our accuracy with our backline. I think Tuesday night we left a few tries out on the pitch here, but look, we're excited for it. There's a lot of energy, and at the end of the day, I think if we turn up and perform like we can, then hopefully we're on the right end of the result.
Cali's coaching team, Kevin Winus and Colin Sangster, of course, and they were 19-0 up against the South the last time, 6 years ago. They've had this running through their veins for 6 years. They're out for revenge.
They will be, and that's what we've talked about. They'll be definitely up for it. And as you say, we gave them a head start the last game up in Stirling. And look, we probably can't get to that stage again. I think the Premiership experience they've got, especially in Liam Brims and DJ Innes and that centre of midfield, will really help them. Liam's a top quality player. We obviously know him quite well with Hoyk and Hawk, so he'll put them in the right positions, and they'll get field position for that. So look, we know their strengths, but it's about how we find little weaknesses in there, and we've definitely got a game plan, and we'll try and execute it and hopefully bring that inter-district back.
Well, we can't wait for it. We're looking forward to Sunday. Good luck.
Perfect, cheers.
Matty Douglas, and of course, if he wins this one with the South, he's gone through the whole season unbeaten, not only with Hoyk but with the South as well.
I know. I think that is remarkable. It's a great achievement. Still, you're seeing all the trophies and all the celebrations on social media, but this is just a different facet to it, and it's just another step on his journey in his coaching career. So it's hopefully, from a South point of view, I'm a rugby neutral, but I'm in the south of Scotland. We're rugby fans. This is Borders Rugby Radio. You want to see the South win, but there's loads of different stories in there, and hopefully, Matty can go through the whole season unbeaten, and we'll be listening to it for the next 50 years.
So we'll be live from Braidholme on Sunday, home of GHA, for the final between the South and Caledonia Reds. we're on air at 3 o'clock, kick-off 3:30. So if you can't head out to Glasgow for the final, we'll be bringing you live and exclusive radio commentary on Borders Rugby Radio with Stuart McFarlane, Dale Clancy and Graham Dodds in the commentary box. And that will be our final show of the season. So do join us if you can. But that's your lot for today. From Dale and I, bye for now.